A big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. Today's show is a special and extremely intimate one. Over the next 30 minutes, we will walk down memory lane and celebrate a man who left us too soon. A man who had so much more to offer, be it personally or the industry. On the 21st of August, the media and advertising industry stood shocked and devastated as Pradeep Guha, the media veteran, took his last breath. Much has been written by those who knew him over the last week or so. But today, I am privileged to be joined by four industry stalwarts who knew him very intimately. All of them have had the honor to work with him closely for decades. And if anyone can truly walk back in time and cherish PG, as we fondly call him, and truly celebrate him, it is these four gentlemen. Without further ado, let me introduce my guests joining me on this very special show. Piyush Pandey, Chairman Global Creative at Ogilvy, MK Anand, Chief Executive Officer, Times Network, ad veteran Ramesh Narayan, and last but not the least, Dr. Bhaskar Das, Chief Strategy Officer, Republic, and Pradeep Guha's best friend. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Truly a pleasure joining me on Brand Equity and taking time out to do this. It's been a tough week or so for all of you. I know that all of you have been personally mourning PG's demise. But I want to start, with you, Bhaskar Da, as a man who knew him so intimately, worked so closely with him, were side by side with him during the makeover of Response at BCCL. Talk to me about when you first met PG.
A gentleman who dominated 93% of my life, of my experience. So it's very difficult. It's like you can see your eyelashes, which you can't. I never realized that during this period, he quietly became a shelter and shade for me. I met him first in 1983. When I was transferred to Calcutta as the response head, and he was transferred as the branch head, so profit center head. So I was introduced to him. I found him to be a very smart person and good looking. Obviously, I was not, so the contrast was very visible. But that's the beginning. And a lot of people told me that he's a bong, so your life is made. But he could not speak in Bengali. He could not read Bengali script. He was really, and I am not exposed to Bombay. I've never worked in Bombay at that time. I was the Dehati guy, and he was the sophisticated Mumbaite. So we started, and I became his fan because my enculturing process started from there. That Pradeep Guha, how he talks, how he carries himself, and debates, discussions happened, and we slowly became his friends. I realized that he found his Bengali root in me because I was really real bong, and he was not a bong in any sense of the word. And we used to work, we used to play. That those days partying was not there, so we used to play carom at the end of each day and fight with each other about strategic moves. About whom to hit and when to hit the competitor. Then you have to have jhalmuri, then you have the fuchka, then you have to have the chicken roll. So of course Bengali jokes in the buses and everywhere. So he was there only for 2.5 years in Calcutta with me. I didn't realize that how he's quietly influenced me big time, and I have succeeded him continuously. But the challenge is that the moment he left, I felt a vacuum. I realized that, and he recommended me to be the head of Calcutta. And it's such a coincidence and it's serendipitous. I started following him. He lives for Bombay. I take over in Calcutta. I go to Ahmedabad. He became president of Response. So I was Ahmedabad branch head, and I used to do all kinds of mischief with the industry, with his support continuous. So anytime I have to phone him, perhaps every day sometime. And then I followed him to Bombay. Then he left professionally from my life, but never left my life. So I took over from him. This one time, he forgot to take me. So I'm waiting.
Right. Anand, before I go to Piyush and Ramesh, I want to go back in time and, of course, ask you, because I know that you are an old timer when it comes to the Times Group, you're an old boy. And you have worked intimately with both Bhaskar da and PG. And I know that when the transformation of the response department was happening and became into this swanky model, which almost every media house tried to emulate, both of you were very integral in actually watching that and creating that. First, give me your first impressions when you met PG first, and then, of course, working with him during that time when response became what it became.
To be honest, let me sort of one disclosure. I am here not in the capacity of these three gentlemen who are really his friends and his contemporaries. I am here actually to represent a lot of people like me, who have been people who basically looked at all these people, this generation, as our stalwarts and our heroes. And amongst them, of course, Mr. Guha was really, really close. And, I really am sort of here to, I've actually used my position with you to get this seat here to sort of talk on behalf of all my colleagues and not really by myself, because I don't think I'm really sort of worth or at that level to sort of speak about Mr. Guha. But Mr. Guha's first interaction with me was one evening at around 7 o'clock after office hours. I had sort of somehow pushed my way through the security gate in Times and pushed my resume to one of the managers asking for a job. It was not an appointment ad. It was not a walk-in. And by luck, that week, one Mr. Guha had taken over as director response. Apparently, he was general manager before that. So that week, I walked in and they very quickly sort of, after 1 or 2 interviews, ushered me in and said, okay, you'll have to meet this person for the job. And I'm this 23-year-old out from the street with very little actual experience other than cocky confidence that I can sort of walk in. And I had very, very easy interviews, the 2 other interviews that I had. And I thought, this will be a breeze. And I walk into a room. It's almost empty because Mr. Guha used to sit on the side of his room. And that was new to me. This is 1990. And people used to usually have desks which face the door. And this man's desk was facing the wall. So I walked in and didn't realize that the room actually had this person. And then suddenly this person turns around and says, okay, go and sit in that corner. And with no, almost sort of dismissively, I go sit in the corner, and then he turns around and saunters, he lights a cigarette. And his first conversation to me was, I saw your resume. I don't think your profile fits us. It was that so-called pressure interview. We don't think you should sort of, you suit, I can help you with a job elsewhere, but not here. So I said, sir, thank you very much for offering me to find a job elsewhere. But I insist that I want to work with people like you. I mean, I've come here because I think I've been self-taught for about 1.5 years in the industry. And if I continue like this, I might think that, everything that I know is what the world is about. I need to work with people like you to sort of get somewhere. And then he said, okay, very dismissively, sort of just turned up and walked and sat in his chair and said, go. Then I walked out thinking that I didn't get the job. And then somebody came from behind me and offered me the employment letter and said, so I thought it was a feedback form or something that, interview has gone off. Big companies have these things. So I said, what is this for? He said, is it a feedback form? He said, no, it's your employment form. I said, what? He said, yeah, didn't he tell you he's taking you? I said, wow. So he was intimidating and, really, really comforting at once, really. And, very, very solid presence, fantastic presence, and what a voice. So I think that was my first impression about the man. And like Mr. Das said, he's To me, Mr. Guha is like a third parent, honestly. Uh, I've not really been able to sleep properly the last 1 week.
Piyush, let me come to you. I know you have worked with him, with a lot of creative collaborations, and your friendship and your professional, relationship also spans many decades. Uh, what was the one thing you worked with several media personalities? What was the one thing you felt about Pradeep Guha that made him stand apart and made him such a big personality in the media and advertising space?
I think the most amazing thing, Sonali, about Pradeep was that he didn't think that he was a personality, because he was many personalities rolled into one. I've said it earlier also. This man straddled so many aspects of the business. It's amazing. He was a salesperson in terms of response. He was a brand person in terms of doing some wonderful things for Times of India. He built brands like Women Miss India and Filmfare Awards. Filmfare Awards may have existed before him, but not like the way he made it. He made the advertising club look a lot more interesting than it did earlier. He took India to be represented in Cannes. He did an Ad Asia of the kind which was so amazing that after Ad Asia was over, we were having a drink together, and I said, Pradeep, now all these are small games for you. Next time I want to see you do the Olympic opening ceremony. And he said, you're crazy. I said, no, you're great. And the first trip to Cannes, there were only a handful of people from India. And Pradeep,
which year was this?
It was about 94, I think, Sonali. There was Rajiv Agrawal, who was the first jury member. There was Pradeep as the Cannes partner. And he had told me that, of course, you have to be there. So I also went along, registered myself. And there was Kailash and Aarti Surendranath and a couple of other people who I don't remember. But we were there, six some, together, spending time, seeing what the world was doing. We were new entrants. And similarly, so many things. If Indian delegation was going to China, to Taiwan, to various places, you'd pick up the call and say, Piyush was speaking on behalf of India in creativity. And I never said no. I could never say no to him. He had a bit of a fantastic people's magnet in him. And that's because of his charm, his dignified way of approaching people, and the friendship that we cultivated at the back of something similar in our chemistry, which we liked. So I would say that he was the perfect all-rounder, if I was to say what was unique about him. Amazing human being, amazing friend, very sensitive. I still remember when Ken asked me to be the president of the jury. He called me up and said, I just wanted to check one thing with you, that in the international setup of Ogilvy, there are a couple of people who are senior to you. I hope it doesn't make them offended and impacts you. And I said, Pradeep, that's very nice of you, very sensitive of you. But I didn't ask you to come there. You didn't have to take it from me. So I'm comfortable. But that sensitivity to say something nice is going to happen to him, hopefully nothing negative happens to him. And that's the Pradeep I knew. Pradeep was a friend. I till about in less than 10 days before he passed away, I didn't even know that he was unwell. I was sending him jokes and he was sending me replies. An amazing friend. I had lost not just an industry professional, but a caring, amazing friend. That's what Pradeep was to me.
Sonali, I just remembered because Piyush created such amazing campaigns post-discussion with Pradeep, but I used to go with him to Cannes or for that matter to Ad Asia's. I worked with him in the content space, but the kind of, as Piyush said, he used to straddle multiple spaces seamlessly. So his understanding of content looks like he's an editorial person. His understanding of consumer behavior. So he's shifting from a typical response target meeting to redesigning of Femina, Filmfare. And all these campaigns, every stage, Piyush has played, and award-winning campaigns, memorable campaigns, if you go back to the history, is incredible. We are in the branches, we used to get impressed. But most importantly, his ability to sync with every level in the organization and every function. That's what I think was amazing. As a result, the personal touches, the emotive connections were so seamlessly built.
Right. Ramesh, I know that your interaction first with PG very closely came when he took on the challenge. I remember, when I was researching and reading that a CEO, and you might know which CEO made that comment saying that we should stop pitching for, events like Ad Asia because we're never going to win it. And I believe at that time, along with Gautam, Pradeep took on the challenge, picked up the gauntlet and said, let's do this. And that's the time, you worked with him to make that fabulous Ad Asia 2003 happen. Tell me about what happened before Pradeep decided to say, let's do this. What was the background to that story?
India used to make a bid for the Ad Asia, always. And we always lost. So at this place, Bali, I was a rookie at that time. And I saw on stage, we had Atul Tandon, we had Gautam Rakshit, and we had Roger Pereira. And I thought, wow, now we just have to win this bid. And the bid, sank like a stone. And we lost again. So that night at a party, there was this gentleman who was on the board of a large FMCG company. He walked up to us and said, I think, we should stop this. This is an absolute, waste of time. India will not be able to win a bid like this. Let us stop this whole exercise because it, doesn't look good. And he walked off, and as he was walking off, I saw, Pradeep and Gautam looking at each other and said, let's do it. And so he, planned out every small step. And of course, at the end of the day, even the bid, knowing Pradeep, it'll have to be a huge thing. So at Kuala Lumpur, we had the reigning, Miss World at that time there, and we did all that. Though we were told already that you're almost in, but he said, no, we will not leave anything to chance. It's a bid that we must win. After we won, I thought, okay, now it's all over. No. It actually, began there. Right from roping in, Piyush Pandey for the Ad Asia's, campaign. This was, Piyush, it was not, Prasoon. And, roping in, Bhaskar and his team for the entire, content. And then the marketing of the Ad Asia, where we, three of us, flew all over Asia. And I guess, it's on these trips that we actually, became very, very, dear friends. I often recall that at the most important of times, he would, hardly ever speak. I once, went to him and said that, look, I've been able to get a 10-minute, slot at the IAA's World Congress to market the Ad Asia. So you and I will go. So he gives me a look up from his chair and says, who the hell wants to see you and me on stage anyway? We'll take Priyanka Chopra and go to Beirut. And we did. And we spent, 3-4 days there, made the bid and all that. Similarly, after the Audacia 2011, and here's the thing that I haven't, named the man ever, but he will know it now. On the last day of the Audacia, in the afternoon, Piyush Pandey, called me to his room and said that I like this Olive Crown award of yours, and I'll be able to help out in sponsoring. So I was over the moon, because it was actually year 2 only, and it was hard. The launch itself was a big feat. So we had a drink or two, spoke about him, everything else, and on the way out of his room, I asked him, but who is that client? And he named the client. And I said, okay. And I walked out, and I was in an absolute turmoil. And the Audacia was over, New Delhi, and it went off extremely well. And Pradeep and I were in the car, coming back on the way to an after party. And I told him this, and I said that, look, I have a sponsor now, but he could be a polluting, company. I don't want Olive Crown to have them here in the first year. What do I do? I'm in a mess now. So he said, how much will it cost? So I told him the amount. So he looked at me, he said, I'll do it. And 9XM then actually sponsored it for 3 years in a row. And the Olive Crown then, of course, became, what it is today.
See, the content, Sonali, was perfect. It was never the entertainment and content never fought with each other. He had the best of the content, best of the speakers, best of the presentation, and the surround, which is the evenings or the way people stayed, the way people were looked after. That was separate. So never mistake Pradeep Guha as a showman.
Yes.
Pradeep Guha was a content man who surrounded it to give it the image that drew people. That's what he was.
Sure.
In fact, the gravitas was never compromised. And Sonali, that Piyush did the invitation in a matchbox. I can't forget this. People are blown by it. And no one knows Rajasthan, to my mind, better than Piyush Pandey. And he, along with Pradeep, brought everything that what Rajasthan stood for.
I want to just shift gears a bit and talk about Pradeep, the leader. Just as, Ramesh was speaking, and he said that, he'd actually quit and he was leading a semi-retired life in a farm. And one call from Pradeep, he took the plunge and came back to Bombay and, started a second innings. I've heard from a lot of people that he commanded loyalty like no other. I wanted to check with you, Bhaskar da, and you, MK, on what was that quality he had in a leader, because that's a different generation where, Bhaskar da, you still look at him as your mentor, your follower, although you're professionally we're not working anymore. I think this generation of career-minded professionals are not so linked to to people or bosses, and they move, they're butterflies, they move as opportunity knocks. So I'm talking about that time and space where people demanded that kind of loyalty. And I believe Pradeep had that skill where he could command undisputable loyalty with the people he worked with.
I can't agree more with you. I remember when he was leaving after 2.5 years from Calcutta, at midnight, he called me saying that, I have recommended you for this post. Samir Jain has agreed. So branch head's position, profit center head, was an exciting position. And I remember at a subsequent conversation, Samir Jain told me, I couldn't believe Pradeep has recommended you. Such a thin person. How would he handle union? How would he run the team? But I was selected, so he has the knack. And then subsequently, I hope I did not let him down. And I still remember now that you mentioned MK Anand. So I once fought with him that suddenly the classified head position was vacant. And I used to interact with Anand, so I went and Pradeep said, please look for a person from outside. I said, boss, believe me, this guy looks damn good. I interacted with him. He's very intelligent. His only disqualification that he's not chief manager. The system in Bombay, till you're a chief manager, you can't be a group head. And he was just a manager. And give me 6 months time. If I don't deliver, then whomever you want, I'll recruit. And same thing happened when Zoom started. Pradeep said, can you pick up, whom do you want to pick up from this response department? Because Mr. Arora, who was our executive director, wanted. I said, M.K. Anand, Ashit Kukian, and others. So I mentioned that. That also he agreed. And today you look at it, he has been so big, MK, that I feel happy that looking at him, that at least I got something from Mr. Guha for recognizing the X factor in my colleagues.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Sonali, on the point that Ramesh mentioned, and I can tell you, I was looking after classifieds as the Bombay head, and then after that, Mr. Guha also got involved in propagating whatever we were doing in Western region under Mr. Das nationally. So that's when I really started working with the man in detail. I mean, each font, number of characters to the column, the slugs and the sub-slugs and the sub-sub-slugs, if you see the classified pages of those days, which is basically what has now got onto the web. He was involved in every little detail of the font width, everything in such minute detail. But he was also able to somehow make me feel that I was in charge. So because, when you talk about a man who is so out details, you also conjure up images of a person who is a control freak, and therefore people are all his hands and legs and he's just the brain. No, it was not really that way. So Sonali, the point is that the man was able to get into details without intimidating you or without making you feel that, you did not have stuff to sort of contribute, because he also sort of listened and he also took points. And another thing about him, I think 3 things about him. One is getting into details, very, 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 very particular about quality. I think I've not seen another person who is so aesthetically, so strict aesthetically. I mean, you look at his house. He came to my house. I've got a house outside Bombay. And then he looked at the tiles and he looked at the place. And he said, yeah, this is fine. You could see the man actually sort of looking at it as if he's looking at the classifieds page. You go to his house, you look at the way every point, every little corner of his house is sort of, the combinations of colors, the tiles, unbelievable. So one is that he was really, really into minute details about physical stuff and about, sequencing stuff, whether it is events, content, surround, etc., etc. That was one. Second, extremely fast. You put up a note to him. In those days, there was no email. You put up a note to him, and it had to come in about 3 to 4 hours, 2 to 3 hours, not even 3 to 4 hours. Either okay, please speak, or no. And it is most of the times it is either okay or no. And most of the times I was lucky, it was okay to me. So he was very, very, very fast, very fast. And so these 2 qualities, I think, are very, very important. The third quality, which I have not been able to imbibe, is I don't remember a single instance of Mr. Pradeep Guha sacking anybody. He has not taken out people from his team. He has worked with whatever people that he's very, very, very exacting standards when it comes to recruiting. It was very difficult to get people past him. In fact, it used to be a game between him and me, because I used to recruit a lot of people because classifieds was a very large, people, because a lot of booking and stuff like that. And after, I would do the rounds and Mr. Das would do the rounds. Mr. Guha still insisted that for classifieds, front office, etc., he wanted to sort of, look at those people. So it used to be a game. In fact, he once told me, you recruit people in your own image. Let me see, what do you think about yourself? So, I mean, I would put up 5 people when I needed 5 people and make it a point somehow to get all 5 approved. Because it started, of course, with, I would put up 10 people and you would check out 7 of them. But by the time I ended, it was almost 5 on 5. And he was very, very exacting when it came to recruiting. But once you are on his team, I do not know a single case. Mr. Das may be able to correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there is a single case of Pradeep Guha having taken a person out of the team, because of which there was, in those days, what about those days? I mean, I'm talking about these days. He was just out of a few years back. In a highly competitive world, in a highly exact world, in a highly demanding world, people still had that feeling and comfort that unless I quit, I'm not going to lose my job. So because of which, I think there was a lot of confidence, and that empowerment probably came from that thing that, you could sort of go on a limb and sort of do stuff, which really helped us develop as individuals. As I said, I started with saying I talk for a lot of us of my generation. We are what we are, all of us, and it doesn't matter if some of them may not have reached designations that I have reached. All of us have been successful, really, really happy individuals, good people. And today, if there is a groundswell of so much of adulation and so much of, so much of the kind of stuff that is pouring out on social media, it's because there are a lot of successful people out there. They are not just people. They are not just also rats. Everybody he has touched, everybody who's worked in response is successful in some way or the other. Confident, successful people he has made, because he's given them that confidence that, what, guys, I'm there. Do your best, do your worst. We'll still sort of make something out of it. That's I think is
to add to what Anand is saying, see, the people that Anand is talking about largely are the people that I have seen growing with Pradeep. I've seen them grow, and they've grown wonderfully. And this one thing I want to underline, that Pradeep was an amazing team player. So whether you were at Cannes, whether you were in whatever part of the world, whether you were in Jaipur, if you saw him in the evening, he was with his team. He went out to meet other people who were guests of his at a certain time commitment. But Pradeep was with his people, and his people were with Pradeep.
If I may, Sonali, with your permission, just take on what MK Anand mentioned. He curated a culture in response which straddled aesthetics, the sartorial elegance of the team, the conversation point. So it's a curated culture. So he was, I won't say minute details, he was more about an aesthetics man, and he felt that look at the second floor of Response in the Times of India building. When it was getting constructed, and Hafiz contractor was doing it, he was going into every minute details. But it is more about a curation of a philosophy and culture, which has gone to the bricks, to the individual selling style. But he was never crazy about control. He really created a completely empowered organization. MK talked about speed, but most importantly, when it came to empowering people across down the line also. So that has happened, and I think I was deeply influenced personally by that culture, because when I succeeded him in Times of India, I think I continued that curated culture.
Last question, gentlemen, before I let you go. I'm well over time. But if there is, something that we should take away from PG's life as life learnings, what should it be? You want to start, Piyush?
Yeah, I'll start. This thing was, if you play to win. And if you want to win, you must have a team. It can't be one alone. I think that's about it that I would like to say, in addition to what has already been said.
Sure. Ramesh?
Two things I would say. Number one was, despite the fact that the whole world knew that he was the man, behind the ideation and all that, he never ever sought any kind of publicity. So all the interviews in the media, for example, he would ask them to meet me. And so after the first interview, when I asked him, I said, look, you're in charge. So, his answer was, see, I won't allow TOI to ever, publish my snap. And the rest of the media won't, publish it in any case. So you're the face now. So he was not, bothered about, who was the face, this, that, get the job done.
Sure. MK?
I have a lesson direct from him. It happened after I worked with him, after a long time after that. He called me once and he said, I've been wanting to talk to you. I've watched you and it's a little late in the day, but I need to tell you. He said, remember one thing, people below will always love you because you're their boss. They don't have a choice. So they will always love you. At least they'll show that they love you. People above will always love you because you're very good at your job. So all your bosses have always been happy with you and they will always be happy with you. If you want to measure your success, he said, the success is measured by the number of people who do not report to you and are not your bosses, who have nothing to do with you professionally, but are in the same profession. How many of them really like you or love you? He said, you know what? Look at me, whether it is Chinnan or other people around me who were in the Spousia and other people around me who were the same level when I was, at a certain level. They love me even though I have been their boss. That is something that, Anand, I think is a deficiency in you. He said, you're popular with people under you, you're popular with people above you. You need to work on that. And I think I have tried to work on that a little bit. I'm not very social with people my level. I probably also have taken what, Mr. Pandey said of being with the team more than with guests. I'm probably more comfortable with that. It's some kind of a subconscious wanting to be, only with people that sort of love you. But I think seeing the real impact a man has had, not on the Times of India, not on each of us as professionals, but the simple fact that all of us are talking about him, and the serious swell of expressions of love for him, one realizes that it is how you impact each other as people and not as boss or subordinate that really matters in the professional world. I think for me, trying to make a few more friends at my own level, people who don't report to me, would probably be my one fundamental learning from. He told me that. I haven't listened to him yet. In fact, when he told me, he said, while I'm talking to you, I know in your mind you're thinking, nonsense, this old man is talking to me. What does he know? But seriously, I mean, that is hats off to the man. Hats off to the man.
Bhaskar, last word to you.
4 words describe what I've learned from him and I personally practice. It's LCSP, leadership, culture, strategy, people. To my mind today, I realized culture is actually the first one, which the leader curates, because culture can eat strategy for breakfast and lunch. Strategy is very important, especially when you have a competitive and very dynamically changing landscape. And of course, people are your biggest capex. So these are the 4 things that have dominated me. MK is still learning. I'm also learning. He used to call me, you are too much of a professorial approach. And he loves to tell me, Bhaskar, don't bullshit, okay? Because I used to give concepts a lot. And you have seen, I've written about him. I said, I wish I can hear once more that Bhaskar, you're bullshitting.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking time out and reminiscing, PG's life and your personal experiences. I hope everybody listening to this show also has immense takeaway, just like I've had. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Sonali.
Thank you, Sonali.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Pandey. Thank you, Ramesh.
All of you.